What Sage CRM Labs are, they're experimental. The idea behind them is to unlock the functionality in CRM, to create features out of that hidden functionality, to make things simpler for users, to simplify complex or tedious tasks. We're really interested to see what customers think of this. So we're hoping to get some feedback on these. We will be adding more in 26 R1, but in 25 R2, we have webhooks and quote templates. So I'm going to hand back to Jeff to talk about those two. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you. So we've got these two new components. They are going to be, you'll experience them within the interface as optional components deployed so that you can then install them from within inside the component manager. So it's a series of metadata changes and some code changes with potentially, depend on these particular ones, they actually have additional data model changes as well, but we don't envisage all labs changes actually involving structural changes to the database. The two products that we have, enabling of quote or master templates or quote master templates, and then the idea of implementation of webhooks. If we look first of all at the idea of the master quotes or the quote templates, is that this is something that has come directly from customer requests based on the need to have complex quotes that can be reused between customers. So this is something that came up to us on the idea that somebody was an engineering company wanting to create a series of quotes that were essentially a product configurator. If you're going to put in this particular unit, then you need to have associated with that other subunits together to create a particular type of sale. And this is something that can be done inside Sage CRM through the quotation engine integrating with the products, but you want to be able to then save that to be able to reuse with an alternative customer, or in fact, again, to present to the same customer, but to tweak it slightly. So what will happen is that you're able to save a quote. You're able to, so if you've built a complex quote, you save a quote, you give it a name so you can recall it later on. And on a completely different customer with a different opportunity environment, you've got the ability to create a quote from a template, to open that up, to be able to then edit it, create a brand new quote, which is then returned to you in edit mode, which you can then fine tune to change in terms of quantities, etc., that you might need. So this is all about making life easier for the salespeople and speeding up, especially our more sophisticated, complex sales processes. And it's a very nice little thing that works pretty well. And the webhook implementation is where we have to be able to enable Sage CRM within the cloud environments that we are, when an event occurs within Sage CRM. So when you insert a company or you update a person and you want to be able to push that out into perhaps an alternative email system, or you want to push that across into another e-marketing system, then you want to be able to store the connection details, either basic authentication or a web API, and then to be able to have the event reflected and passed across with a payload going across to the external system. We've already got, if you like, the back way in, as we have the REST APIs to be able to cope with messages coming back into CRM. But what we didn't have until now is a convenient way of messaging when essentially when an event at the level of insert, update, or delete took place, but now that's reflected inside the product with a set of easy features to do. And these are all documented now and live up on the community. If you go and you'll be able to have a look if you go up onto the community hub and have a look down into the downloads area of Sage CRM's area within the community. You'll be able to see that there's a wiki area where the documentation for those two features sits. So I'm just running to log on. And the idea is that we would see the components as available options for a implementer of Sage CRM inside the administration area, inside the customization component manager. So I've come down into looking at administration customization component manager, and you can see now that we have got two components available to be installed. They're marked as labs with the version that they were implemented. And what we would do is be able to change if there was a separate version or a new version. We would simply swap out in new or the upgrades, the newer version of the component. So we've got 25 R1 enabled webhooks. I'm going to, the installation works in the same way, however we do it. So I'm going to implement and show you the enable quote templates first of all, to show you how the installation works. We select the component that we want to install and then select install component. You can see that it's marked visually, graphically as being a labs component with a description, the applicability, and a disclaimer with the link to the README. The README file is the documentation for that component, and you can find that inside the Wikipedia or wiki pages of the Sage Community Hub. So we've come to the area within example components and developer resources underneath the Sage CRM Labs enable quote templates. And here we have a description of what the component does, how it can be used, what changes are made to the interface, and then how it can also be removed as well. So if I return back into this user screen, to be able to implement the component, you must check the disclaimer box. If you don't do that, what you'll find is that the component will attempt to run, and then it will simply tell you that you've not actually accepted the disclaimer. So there we are. Due to the following errors, none of the changes in this file have been implemented. You have not confirmed acceptance of the disclaimer. So if I go back and select that disclaimer, it will now run, install the component, and it will implement as any component inside the system. This is going to make within the user interface two changes. So there will be two buttons added, one to be able to take an existing quote and then to be the existing quote and to create a template from that quote. And the second change is to be able to create a quotation from the template itself. Once we've had the metadata refreshed, we can go and explore what other changes have taken place. And of course, it's taking so long because you're looking at my screen. So here you can see that we've successfully run. Any of the components that have been installed will show underneath and when they were installed. And if I go now into some of the background changes that have been implemented, we can go into administration, customization, and have a look at the tables and databases. And what we will see that we have the tables that have been implemented for these features. Now, I've only implemented the quote template items in the running of that last change that I made. So just running that component has implemented those two. I have previously run the webhook implementation. But if I now go as a user over into the user area of the system, perhaps coming into Gatecom, looking at the opportunities that are underneath underneath this company, we can see that there is an existing opportunity that I know has got a quote associated with it. This particular quote, as we can see here, is for a 120 user expense system. You'll notice that we've got the ability to create a new quote from the template. That's a new button that has been added in by this component. And you can see if I look to click on the reference for this quote, we've got another button that has been added into the interface, which is Save as Template. It's all matching the existing branding, and it will all work in a way that is very similar to any other screens within Sage CRM. We can see here that we have a quote that consists of the currency that has been selected based on the opportunity currency being used. We can see that it's associated with the pricing list. We've got a series of other information contained in here, and then we can also see that there are a number of different line items that are selected within this quote. At this point, I could add new information in and extend it, but let's imagine that this is really quite a complex quote that a user would find a pain if they had to then rebuild this quote in another customer for exactly the same thing. The idea here is that many times customers are using Sage CRM and needing to have something like a configurator for a final product that is delivered that consists of multiple different items from the price list, but they are always sold together. And so here we have now added this feature to be able to say, okay, you've created a complex quote that you want to be able to reuse in other opportunities. And this is now what we can do with Save as Template. So I can click Save as Template on this screen, and we can give this a simple name. So I'm going to call this Complex Expense System as a name. Seems perfectly reasonable to me, and then I'll choose Save, and we can see that this has been added into the system. So I've got my complex expense system, and if I needed to, I could come into an existing quote template that I might have, and then I could choose to rename it to provide a clarity, or I could delete it if it was a no longer needed item. So I can delete that and change it, or as I said, I could rename it in any way that I wanted. So I can change these quotes. Now, to use them, and I might want to go off to a different company completely. If I go off and look at an opportunity here, and if I go and find a company, let's see about Laboratory System Virginia, and we can see that we've got this this particular opportunity in here. And if it turns out that what they need is a complex quote, I can go into the quotes area and choose a new quote from the template. And then I can go and choose. And here I can actually search for it if I wanted to. So I could go find. I can find anything that I want. I can choose. So this is actually a working area of this screen as well. If I close that down, or I can use the standard lookup to be able to choose the template that I want and then choose save. And what you can see is that this is now created, carrying across the information that who has created it. It's brought back into the newly created and saved quote in edit mode to allow any of the details to be changed that somebody might want. And it's got even the when it was opened, and it follows the pattern for the expiration date picked up from the system parameters, and we can choose to save this quote. So let's take the enable quote templates component as run. So this has been run. The effect is that if we go into advanced customization, you will see that there is a new option here to create and configure webhooks. So I can click here. This is what the user will see. What you need to do in here is to first of all explain the authorization that you would be using. And if it's quicker to look at the existing one that I've created here, this is the webhook configuration, where you would say what the name of the system is, the authentication mechanism that you would use, and then the username. And if you have chosen, if I see it supports either through API or basic. So if you've chosen this as the username and password, that's where you're using basic. If you had chosen API key, you would fill in the others, created this. And underneath this, we now also have the capacity to put in the different events that are related to the behavior of Sage CRM. So the event type corresponds to the event function within inside the table level script. So this is the company update, or it is a case update, or it is a whatever. So this would support you connecting through to a site that allows for webhook interaction, where you've got an endpoint that you need to specify, and you could be interacting with those different endpoints depending on whatever action takes place within Sage CRM. So the event type here is it needs a target URL that you're using. I'm using webhook.site to allow for this test to be able to take place. So it provides a proof that you're able to communicate and send a webhook call to a target system. So my target system is simply this webhook.site and then a unique URL that represents that. What has happened is that when you run the component, it implements a change at the level of the registry. So looking at my registry here, you can see that it implements, it requires you to manually add a new value into the keys for the registry. So script common functions with a value of pointing to webhook common.js file. That's found underneath the custom pages inside the www root folder. back inside CRM, where we've defined this, we are following the documentation here, which explains that you must have a webhook target system name, and it has to have a you must have a knowledge of what event that you're associating with it. But once you've got this, you can come into customization. Waiting for the system to respond. Come into company. And at the level of the table level scripts, we can edit this table level script and we can write the code in here. Now, it's easier if I show you if this has already been written out into Visual Studio, where you can see that these are the different things where we would need to know what the name of the webhook test site was. This is an example of how to use the logic that will be preloaded from the script common functions.js file that is being used. So all the helper files are contained within this. That defines how to actually make the web call, how to encode the basic authorization, etc. So you can see that we've also got logging functions which would be written out into the SQL log here as well. So this is, you'll notice that I've got the webhook site name, I've got the type of check to see what type of authorization is used, and you can see that I've also got in here the example of the payload that is being used as well. So I should now be able to change something inside CRM. If I go back onto the company, if I go into, let's go back into Gatecom, and if I change Gatecom from being Gatecom Limited to Gatecom Inc., and I change its type from competitor to, I change its type into being a prospect, we should then be able to see that reflected over here on this site. So this is, it should pass that through. So if I save now, what I get is that firing, and over here you can see there was a 1 appearing indicating that this is just being sent across, and you can see that it has passed across the correct authorization information, the username and the password. You can see that it was basic encoded, and then it was able to be understood, and you can see there is the payload that has been sent to that endpoint. Okay, so that basically is proving that we have got now webhooks within inside Sage CRM. I am going to say thank you so much for coming along today. Thank you for listening all the way through to the end.